and I was in the management end, but that's where I wanted to be. And I had no real interest in the merchandising end of it at all. So I was tagged as management at that point, okay, by this woman who, looking back on it, who was looking at the executive force for, I suppose, ideas, personalities, or what have you. And I could have very well, if somebody had told me or I'd thought about it or if I'd wanted to, I'd slanted that conversation towards the merchandising end of it. And to me, I guess maybe it was a mystery. I didn't have any desire to buy goods. So I wound up in the management end of the business and stayed there the rest of my life, except after I got to be manager of Macy's Herald Square. You know, I was in charge of the total operation, so to speak. And then the business began to expand. We opened. There was a shop, one of the first shopping malls, a very small one, up in the Bronx, and we put a small store up there. And that was the first out of main store operation we had. And I was involved in the most interesting part of the retail business, I guess. It was the era when all stores began to expand, and one of our first stores was Roosevelt Field, which was a mile from where I lived in Garden City. And it was a big store in those days. It was 100,000 square feet and got to be 400,000. We added floors as the years went on. And I was part of the decision making on location and size and staffing and so forth of these stores as we began to spread out, because that was the management function. The merchants were still buying the goods to put in this store, but somebody had to build a store, okay? And the building operation came under me, and the staffing, that sort of stuff.
And that was after you were no longer manager of the Herald Square.
Herald Square.
You had moved up to this.
Right. Yeah.
So you became COO, Chief Operating Officer?
In effect, yeah. I don't know I forgot my title. We had a manager of branch stores, but he was I hate to call him a ladies' man, but he was on the soft side, and I just paid no attention to him. I ran the place. Well, one day after about 2 years, he complained to me, and I don't know what I said to him, but that was the end of that. He really wasn't. He was a nice guy, but that's all he was.
So where else did you expand? Do you remember expanding besides Roosevelt Field? Where else do you remember building stores?
Where else? What year?
Where else do you remember building stores?
Oh, well, let's see. The Bronx was the first, and then there was Roosevelt Field. This was Long Island, and Long Island was growing. And we put a store in Queens, which was halfway to Garden City, and then we began to go further out to Huntington, which was Long Island was 120 miles long, and Huntington was about 2/3 of the way out on the North Shore, and then we put a store on the South Shore, and then we went up to Albany and put a store there, up to New Haven, and put a store up there. Oh, I forgot. We finally when I left supervised the store area. We had 12 branch stores. That we did more business in the suburbs than we were doing downtown. Downtown had stopped growing. People didn't come downtown anymore to shop. I don't mean to say that Macy's was still doing millions of dollars downtown, but the emphasis was on building up the branch stores. I remember the first, in the late 30s, the first time we did $1 million in Herald Square in one day at Christmas time. That was quite a mark. The store out near Garden City, Roosevelt Field, before today it probably does $25–30 million a year. So you can see what influence the suburbs have.
Didn't you also do the West stores, San Francisco and those stores?
No, I traveled, and you know, New York in the early days was still the big shot, and unofficially I would go to Kansas City and go all through their operation with my counterpart. And then I'd go to San Francisco, and I'd do the same thing, and down to Georgia and so forth. And frankly, I knew more than the managers of those stores, and was able to help them. But I was never officially in charge of them. They each had a store president, vice president, you know, the whole paraphernalia. But my end of the business, which was control of costs, essentially, basically, you know, the most important part of keeping the standards up and the quality of the service and the cost of running that store as against the cost of merchandise, which is the merchandising end of the business. And we started with the cost of merchandise, and then there was an area of expense money, okay? And that was more my end of the business.
And that's how you ended your career at Macy's? That was your last position at Macy's?
Yeah.
And you retired from Macy's in what year?
Let's see, I was 1974. I was 62 years old.
Did you retire by choice?
That was my, I couldn't wait. Well, I was 40 years there. Very unusual. Today, you and everybody else have to have 6 jobs before you settle in. And I enjoyed all of this expansion, and that's why I say I was in a very interesting era in the retail business. But the last 10 years, everything, you know, I was doing everything over again, all right? And I really didn't have any day-to-day duties, so to speak. I was living on ideas and contributions and what have you, and it got to be, as I say, I'd had enough of it.